What if the perfect midfielder already existed 40 years ago? In an era when football has become obsessed with finding the complete midfielder, that rare specimen who can defend, attack, create, and destroy, we've overlooked a simple truth. The prototype was already perfected decades before spreadsheets and heat maps told us what to value. Yet his brilliance presented a fascinating paradox for the tactical minds of his era, a player they couldn't properly categorize or fully utilize. Coaches struggled with the Tigana conundrum. Was he a defensive midfielder with exceptional technical ability, an attacking midfielder with unprecedented defensive awareness? The tactical vocabulary of the 1980s simply lacked the language to describe what Tigana was doing. He existed between the lines of conventional thinking, forcing managers to adapt their systems around a player who defied classification. Unlike the carefully cultivated academy products of today, Tigana's path to professional football was distinctly blue-collar. Working manual jobs by day while playing part-time, he wasn't discovered until relatively late. When Toulon finally spotted his remarkable endurance and technical ability in 1975, they signed the then 20-year-old immediately. Though his early seasons were plagued by injuries, his natural talents were undeniable. His exceptional stamina, positional awareness, and technical ability were remarkable for someone who had missed the formative years of professional training. After modest beginnings at Toulon, Tigana moved to Lyon in 1978 before a career-defining $4 million transfer to Bordeaux in 1981. It was here, under the visionary management of Aimé Jacquet, that Tigana would truly flourish, forming a devastating midfield partnership with Alain Giresse that would later become the blueprint for France's national team. In Aimé Jacquet, Tigana found something he'd lacked throughout his career: a coach willing to build around his unique abilities rather than constrain them. This meant giving other midfielders more disciplined positional responsibilities, creating a platform that allowed Tigana to become the team's tactical wildcard, a midfielder with the freedom to appear wherever he could damage the opposition. What Jacquet understood was that football isn't played with fixed positions, but with spatial relationships between players. If one player moves, others adjust. By giving Tigana freedom within this framework, Bordeaux gained an unpredictable element that opponents couldn't prepare for. The results were immediate. Bordeaux became a genuine force in French football, with Tigana at the heart of their resurgence. His statistical contributions, goals, assists, tackles, failed to capture his true influence, making the entire team function at a higher level. By 1982, Jean Tigana had not only secured his place in the French national team, but had become central to one of the most revolutionary midfield units the game had ever seen. Michel Hidalgo's stroke of genius was the creation of what became known as the Magic Square. 4 midfielders, each with distinct yet complementary qualities, arranged in a diamond that would transform French football and influence the game for decades to come. At the tip of the diamond was Michel Platini, the artist, the orchestrator, the genius. Platini possessed extraordinary vision, precision passing, and remarkable goal-scoring ability for a midfielder. His free kicks were works of art, his spatial awareness unmatched. On the left of the diamond, Alain Giresse, the diminutive maestro, standing only 163 centimeters tall. What he lacked in physical stature, he compensated for with impeccable technique, close control in tight spaces, and the ability to retain possession under intense pressure. At the base of the diamond was Luis Fernandez, the destroyer, the protector, the foundation. Born in Spain but representing France, Fernandez brought tactical discipline, aggressive ball-winning ability, and surprising distribution skills. He was the security that allowed the others to express themselves. And on the right side, Jean Tigana, the perpetual motion, the connector, the complete midfielder. The very qualities that had once made him impossible to categorize now made him irreplaceable. Tigana's stamina allowed him to dominate entire sections of the pitch. His technical security meant possession was rarely lost, and his tactical intelligence connected defense to attack seamlessly. What made the Magic Square revolutionary wasn't just the individual brilliance of each player, but how perfectly their abilities complemented one another. When Platini advanced, Tigana covered. When Giresse drifted inside, Tigana would provide width. When Fernandez needed passing options, Tigana was always available. The Magic Square worked because each player's strengths covered another's limitations. Platini and Giresse were creative geniuses but not defensive forces. Fernandez was defensive-minded but had less attacking imagination. Tigana was the universal solvent that bound them together, equally comfortable supporting Fernandez in defense or combining with Platini in attack. The result was a midfield that controlled games with unprecedented fluidity. Opponents couldn't man-mark effectively because positions were constantly interchanging. They couldn't press aggressively because the technical quality was too high. They couldn't sit deep because the creativity would eventually unlock them. At the 1984 European Championship on home soil, this midfield unit reached its peak. France played football from another dimension, with Tigana's energy and technical ability at the heart of their success. Everyone remembers Platini's 9 goals in that tournament, and rightly so. But watch the matches again, it was Tigana who made everything possible. The distance he covered, the balls he recovered, the counter-attacks he started, he was the heartbeat of that team. The postman from Toulon had not only found his place, He had helped redefine what midfield play could be. The blueprint for the modern midfielder had been created. What made Tigana's approach so ahead of its time? Tigana understood space like few others. He wasn't just running, he was calculating, constantly scanning and repositioning. Despite his defensive capabilities, Tigana was amazing in possession. His first touch would often eliminate opponents instantly. Perhaps most remarkably, Tigana set new standards for stamina in elite football. His former teammate Maxime Bossis once said, Tigana could run a marathon during a football match. But what truly distinguished Tigana was his ability to turn defense into attack in an instant, the hallmark of modern midfield play. Tigana had excellent vision and anticipation, enabling him to spot and execute defense-splitting passes and create scoring opportunities for teammates. While never flashy, Tigana possessed a complete passing repertoire. Short or long, simple or creative, his distribution was tailored precisely to the game's needs at that moment. Despite his attacking contributions, Tigana never neglected his defensive responsibilities. His positional discipline and anticipation allowed him to make defending look effortless. His ability to attack, defend, press, and cover extensive ground made him highly versatile, fulfilling multiple roles in midfield with great effectiveness. The European Championship triumph of 1984 represented the pinnacle of French football and the validation of Tigana's revolutionary approach to midfield play. But rather than resting on his laurels, Tigana's post-Euro career would further cement his legacy. At Bordeaux, Tigana continued to evolve. The 1984-85 season saw him reach perhaps his highest level of individual brilliance as Bordeaux secured a domestic double. His performances earned him second place in the 1984 Ballon d'Or, voting behind only Michel Platini, remarkable recognition for a midfielder whose contributions often defied statistical measurement. In the 1984-85 European Cup, Tigana led Bordeaux to the semi-finals, where they fell to eventual champions Juventus. Despite the disappointment, their campaign, which included a famous victory over Barcelona, established Bordeaux as a legitimate European force with Tigana at its heart. The 1986 World Cup in Mexico saw Tigana and the French midfield continue their mastery on the global stage. France reached the semi-finals, where they faced West Germany in an epic encounter. Despite controlling large portions of the match with Tigana again orchestrating from midfield, France would fall to the Germans 2-0, ending their dream of a World Cup to pair with their European crown. After 8 decorated seasons at Bordeaux, Tigana made his final club move to Olympique Marseille in 1989 at the age of 34. Far from being a retirement posting, his experience and midfield wisdom helped Marseille reach the European Cup final in 1991. In a tense defensive battle, Marseille would fall to Red Star Belgrade on penalties after a scoreless draw, a heartbreaking end to Tigana's European ambitions as a player. When Tigana finally hung up his boots in 1991 after 52 caps for France and over 500 club appearances, he left behind more than just trophies and accolades. He had created a template, a blueprint that would influence generations of midfielders to come. Fast forward to today, and Tigana's influence is everywhere. From N'Golo Kante to Luka Modric, from Bernardo Silva to Jude Bellingham. Look closely at today's complete midfielder. The tireless running, the positional awareness, the seamless transition from defense to attack. Now look at Jean Tigana in 1984. The resemblance isn't coincidental, it's his legacy. When coaches talk about the complete midfielder, they're essentially describing what Tigana was doing 40 years ago. He showed that midfielders could be the engine, the brain, and the heart of a team all at once. But perhaps his most telling legacy is how ordinary his extraordinary skills now seem. The qualities that once made scouts question him, the hybrid nature of his game, the non-stop movement, the balance between defense and attack, are now the basic requirements for elite midfielders. The greatest innovators don't just excel, they normalize excellence. What seemed revolutionary with Tigana is now the standard expectation. Every top club now seeks midfielders with his complete skill set. His vision has become football's reality. The story of Tigana began with a problem. Football couldn't categorize him. But it ends with a revelation. He didn't need a category. Football needed to change. The positional fluidity that once made Tigana an outsider is now football's dominant philosophy. Modern midfielders aren't defined by fixed positions, but by zones of influence, by functions rather than static locations. Perhaps most tellingly, the very football establishment that once rejected Tigana now teaches his principles to the next generation. Academy coaches no longer train midfielders to be specialists. They develop complete players whose influence stretches across phases of play. And so the journey comes full circle. The midfielder who coaches couldn't categorize ended up creating a category of his own, one so influential that it has become the standard against which all elite midfielders are now measured. Jean Tigana didn't just play the game, he changed it. In refusing to be confined by football's existing boundaries, he expanded those boundaries for everyone who followed. The uncategorizable became the prototype, the outsider became the blueprint, and the rejection became the catalyst for a revolution that continues to shape football today. Jean Tigana never won the Ballon d'Or. He wasn't the player who scored the most spectacular goals or made the most outrageous passes. His greatness was more subtle, found in the spaces between moments, in transition, in perpetual motion. He was the player who proved that midfielders could be more than specialists. They could be universalists, mastering every aspect of play. The blueprint he created has become the foundation of modern midfield play. Perhaps the greatest testament to Jean Tigana's influence is this. In reimagining what a midfielder could be, he didn't just transform his position, he transformed football itself.